Hello, hello. This is Lisa Nicol, the host of the Sacred and Rooted podcast. Welcome, welcome. And I will say I'll welcome myself back because it's been a while since I issued a new podcast. Things have really been rolling, like life has been lifing. Anyways, so this podcast, we'll get into some of those details in this podcast, but some of them I'm still integrating, let's say. So this podcast episode is called Are You Maintaining Stress or Are You Reducing Stress? And I feel like I could probably do like 10-part episode on this, but we'll try it in one, and if there's parts that I really kind of get off onto a side path on, then I'll make an episode on that specifically. This question I heard originally somewhere online. I can't remember who, but it was a comment that somebody had made. Are you maintaining stress or are you reducing stress? And it really hit me right at the moment that I heard it because it's a very good question. And the quality of your life, I mean, I feel this strongly because I'm a life coach, I guess. Oh shoot, my car's talking to me. I feel this strongly because it's, the quality of your questions kind of determines the quality of your life. If you can ask yourself good questions, you can get right down to the crux of it and figure your shit out a lot quicker than if you're not asking yourself kind of the confronting questions that you probably need to ask yourself every so often. And at the time I heard it, it was a really good reality check because the last year or two, my whole life, but this last year or so has been very intense as far as just alchemizing things and really building the capacity to roll with things, to roll with changes, to get the solutions, to kind of, take the wisdom and run with it, to not get stuck in the feelings too long, to really be able to sort through the feelings and feel the feelings, but not marinate in the feelings for, endless time. And then to realize that everything has wisdom in it. Everything is kind of working to your optimization. So I ask you that question. Are you maintaining stress or are you reducing stress? For example, I'll give you an example. My health lately has given me a real turn it's been flipped upside down. I'm definitely in perimenopause, which I have been probably for the last year or two. But I would say that was baby perimenopause. It was very, it was much. It was just my periods. I am someone who's, at this point, I realize how pampered I was all these years, with very regular periods, by the book, not painful, not too heavy, not too, just the perfect amount of everything. And so it was something that I could really I could put it down to the time and the date and, here it was, it's going to be these many days, give or take, but it wasn't going to be anything that made me change my life, made me consider what should I do on these days? Should I plan around needing to go to the washroom very frequently? And until the last month. And I got hit with a huge period, which is actually still technically not finished yet. And I think I'm on day 25. And it was what in the Jesus is happening? And before it even started, I was late. And so for about a week or two beforehand, I'm wondering, first off, am I pregnant? And God help me, because I'm 45 and that is not in the books for me at this point. And then the period was welcome. It was welcome to see that I was getting it, but then it just kept going and going and going. And it was the heaviest period I've ever had in my entire life. And literally it became something where I was thinking to myself, what am I going to do? What am I doing today? Looking at my schedule, thinking, okay, they have a nice washroom, they have a nice washroom, they have a nice washroom, and so on. And, like, for example, I went off to close the camp a couple weeks ago, and we went on a boat ride, sort of like the last boat ride of the season, and it was like a little dodgy as far as, okay, for a couple hours, that's fine, but like I am going to need a washroom at that point, and it'll be an emergency. And that was a couple weeks into my period already, and I was still having heavy, like I could not be without a washroom for 2 hours without it becoming like top of mind, where I'm like, okay, I need to find something. Where am I going to find it? Da, 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 da. Anyway, it made me a little bit, well, to say frankly, it was the main thing that I was thinking about all that time, because it just felt like, what is happening? And I'm someone who has like a very strong, belief in, that the wisdom of the body, the cyclical nature of everything. And so this is just a little interesting as far as, that my body is changing, but it's also like changing like a roller coaster sometimes. And so to just kind of again roll with it, understanding that I am I have way less control over things than I think at most of the time. And so with that much blood loss as well, I also had to bring to the forefront my rest, really, just a lot of rest. I was taking iron pills too, because practically speaking, that's probably not a lot of blood. It's too much blood to lose without any kind of actual physical, I could notice the lack of iron in my system. And so then I started taking iron pills, and that maintained it, but it certainly didn't, shut the top off. So anyways, rest became like my number one thing. It was like, it almost didn't matter, like the deadline that I had at work or something. It was just like secondary to, I gotta go home and rest. Like, I'm really right on the edge of my limits here, and I am physically at the edge of my limits, and I like, there's nothing more important. And so this whole experience, I go through all that not to really get into a conversation about perimenopause, although if you want to send me an email later to, compare symptoms, no problem. But I go through that for two reasons. One, the gift that it is, as far as really bringing to the forefront, what else can I be doing to do even more for my mental health, for my physical health, for the way that my life runs on a day-to-day basis. And so I've, in the blink of an eye, something that I've been, trying to want to kind of do for a long time now, was like stop drinking Diet Pepsi, because I love Diet Pepsi. It's caffeinated, so it helps. I don't drink coffee, but I could drink more tea and it would have caffeine in it, and it would be way better. So I've started to do that now, and miraculously, I'm able to just quit it cold turkey, because I just need to get my health back in some kind of like reasonable order. So I'm like, okay, that could be something that's not helping. So out you go. And sugar, cut back way on sugar, like desserts, little snacks, nothing like that, or hardly anything like that. I shouldn't say cold turkey in that case, but way reduced. So, and it just, I guess it was funny to me, or ironic, the way that like flipping your life into a bit of an upside down thing or a roller coaster ride, really helps get some stuff straight and clear. And so the rest, it just made me realize how much I pack into my life, and maybe do I need to do all that? No. And there was also some really beautiful examples of, people at the office, from my past, notices or, I've been working on this for a year or two at this point. So things that I have implemented, things that I have been working on with people in the office to try and get them to kind of, be more autonomous. There was beautiful examples during that whole thing where it came through, and it was like, I didn't have to do anything. All I had to do was say, talk to so-and-so and then figure it out. And they figured it all out themselves. They, issued the thing and it was done. And I was like, oh, perfect. I'm so glad that that's paying off at this point, because I really needed it to. And so to just really, I guess, remind yourself, so maybe you don't need to have like a friggin' period for 3 weeks plus, to look at this and to just notice how ragged you might run yourself, or, how your health, how important health is when you don't quite, or you're not sure you have it or what's happening with it. It really clarifies the importance of it. Anyways, having said that, I'll get into now kind of like I have 3 questions for you so you can mentally just note for yourself. Like there are 3 questions that you can use to sort of self-assess if you're continually, like how stressed you are, or how sustainable, say, your current lifestyle, living, your day-to-day stuff, how sustainable that is for you in the long run. And so here they are, the 3 questions you can use to kind of like just self-assess. They're just little check-ins, nothing to feel shame or guilt about. They're just little flags to say like, yeah, okay, maybe I can, that's sort of on the high side. I can, or low side, whatever I'm doing here. Scale of 1 to 10 with, let's say 1 is low and 10 is high. So number 1, when you wake up, how excited are you about your day ahead on average? When you wake up, how excited are you about, when you're thinking about the day ahead, how excited are you, or just, engaged, or like, okay, I think this will be cool. What is your level of interest in the tasks that you have ahead of you for the day on average? So like it could even be on a weekly basis. You could think of this on a scale of 1 to 10. So a scale of 1 being not excited at all, you're dreading it. 10 being like, wicked, it's going to be awesome, I'm so excited. So that's question number 1. Question number 2, on average, at this point, what priority do you put on your self-care or your self-regulation? On a scale of 1 to 10. 1 being, I don't even know what that means. 10 being, oh, I'm totally on it. Like I really know, when I'm getting exhausted, worn out, anxious, I have tools, I use them, and I'm back on track. So that question was, what priority do you put your self-care and your self-regulation? So from 1 to 10, 1 being, it's no priority, I don't even know what you're even saying. And 10, very high priority, because I would never, do half the things I do if I didn't have, my self-care as a priority. And number 3, what priority do you put your hopes and dreams? On a scale of 1 to 10. And 1 being, I don't even remember what my hopes and dreams are. I haven't even thought of that in ages. I'm just reacting to just the thing in front of me all the time. And, here I am 20 years later. And a scale of 1 to 10. So 10 being, I'm constantly working on my hopes and dreams, moving towards my hopes and dreams, dreaming about my new hopes and dreams, all that stuff. And so these 3 questions or little self-assessments are important because it gives you just a little check-in with yourself, because life is not just a black and white, one and done thing. It's a little dance. So you just want to make sure you haven't got danced off into the curb or danced off into the, bushes there. into the ditch, however you want to think about it, but that you are kind of in the general range of like a successful life, the way you see it and the way you feel most successful in your life. So quickly again, the 3 questions for this quick self-assessment are: when you wake up, how excited are you about your day ahead on a scale of 1 to 10? 2, what priority do you put your self-care and your self-regulation, scale of 1 to 10? And 3, what priority do you put your hopes and dreams, scale of 1 to 10 again? And so from that, you can just see for yourself. You don't have to share it with anyone, or you totally can if you want to, you can discuss it with your friends, do whatever you want with it, but it's for you in an attempt to make yourself aware of any places that you might have blind spots or sort of, left off for a while because something else was more urgent. But then, now that one thing's been resolved, you can get back to yourself. Or if you're feeling extra ragged and you're just kind of, sometimes when we're really exhausted or really in like a crisis phase, we almost forget how useful some of the self-care, some of the self-regulation tools are to us being able to show up in our life during the bad times, during the hard times, during the massive life lessons and upheaval times, because that's when shit really hits the fan, and you do need to double down on those techniques so that you can get through everything with like a high quality about your life and not just feel like, some shadow of your former self just showing up in body form, but really basically checked out. So those are the assessments. Now we're going to move on to, 3 ways you can actually reduce your stress. So the question or the title of the episode was, are you maintaining stress or are you reducing stress? And the answer, I do it I do it frequently. This is a question for me all the time. This is another self-assessment tool that I have where it's like, how's my stress level and am I doing anything about it? Or am I just letting it ride? And my partner's actually brilliant at this for me as like a vocal, he vocalizes for me and lets me know when it's like, Lise, like you really are, like, this isn't good. Like this, you seem too stressed, you're working too much, but whatever the situation is. Because he's very sensitive to he just cares, really, is what it comes down to, which is lovely to think about. And so I hear it, even though it comes out of frustration at times, I can hear it as like a loving reminder, like, yes, good point. I do need to, work on it and reduce it. And so even if for him, he's reminding me, and I'll say back to him, it's not actually, your assessment is not totally accurate. And he helps me vocalize, like, here's the things that I've been doing that are going to reduce my stress in the long run. There's actually nothing to do to reduce my stress right now, except for my own, like, physical, like, my own self-care stuff. But as far as, like, structurally laying out, work organizational things or my life organizational things, that's been done. And now I just have to let the runoff go and it'll work itself out, because all of the new structures that I need to manage this situation better in the future have been implemented. But they're new. And so I need to have, new people are hired. They need to be trained. There's things that take some time. So, but he's a really great influence in my life that way, because he will be the first one, even more than me just noticing, where it's like, okay, you're kind of working yourself into a hole here, or, whatever, or you haven't, been exercising as much. Do you want to head to the gym with me, this afternoon or whenever, this weekend? And so he just has these little things where it's like, hey, you, where's your exercise gone? Or why are you always at your computer? Because, like, really, you don't need to work that hard. Anyway, so I put that in there just because maybe you have people in your life that do the same thing, where it kind of keeps you in check, like, because you are probably accountable to people in your life. There's really hardly anyone that isn't. But yeah, so if you are not doing anything to reduce your stress, that should be a flag for you, because you do not want to maintain a high level of stress for a long period of time. That's how people get burnt out. That's how, people get into the ruts where they just, it's like, this is what it is, and I guess I just have to live with it. And, I did a previous episode, and it was, I can't remember the title, but it was basically one question that was, how can I make this work better for my life? And that is a question I ask myself all the time. Again, getting back to those really powerful questions, because I'm acknowledging that this is not actually how I want my life to run for any real good length of time. Obviously, I will deal with it and I will handle it, because I own the companies that I own, and they're like, when you're the owner, the buck stops with you, kind of thing. But you can put in place new structures, new systems. It's like, once you see that something ends up causing you so much stress, it's like, okay, how could this not be so stressful if it needs to ever happen again? And then you go from there. So there should be no point in your life where you're thinking, okay, well, I'm feeling completely stressed, and I'm probably going to feel this stressed for the rest of my life. Like, that is not a growth mindset. That is not a healthy mindset. You are going to, just kind of real talk, you are going to burn yourself out. You are going to not be as effective in your life in a long-term way if that's the energy that you're bringing to everything that you have to go through and face in your life. So we should always be on a trajectory of, okay, maybe, yeah, there's peaks of stress. Of course, there's peaks of stress. None of us get out of life without, like, oh, shit. Shit. Why is this happening to me? Like, why, God, But how can I reduce the stress? I'm feeling, if I'm feeling stressed on any given day, and I'm thinking, wow, that was like a rough day. That was a lot to handle. That was, I got through it, but like, whoa, okay. And so it's like, okay, if maybe I need to like block off some time where I can just literally, sometimes it's as simple as like sit in the backyard with my feet on the grass, just watching the trees blow in the wind, the birds go back and forth, whatever it is. Something where I'm regulating myself back to like my normal, safe feeling of existence. Because there is a lot of, new stuff. When there's a lot of new stuff, when there's a lot of changes, when there's a lot of just shitty things, that happen in life, like death, divorce, breakups, whatever it is, your body just doesn't feel safe. And so it's your responsibility to find out ways that you can signal to your body that it is safe. Even if there's this thing going on over here that you have to figure out and deal with, like, don't worry. You need to signal to your body, like, it's okay. We're handling it, between us, mind, body, soul. But the body needs to come back to a sense of safety, so that you can have energy to go back out in maybe what you would consider as the unsafe zone, because it's out of your comfort zone, right? Literally, that's a real thing. And and going to do the new thing or going to try the other whatever, going to have the hard conversation and you really don't want to, but you know it's in your best interest. Anything like that, where it causes you sort of it's a stress reaction. And so our initial response is to like put it off or not address it or whatever. And it just eats us up because we are still stressed about it, even if we don't want to acknowledge it. So with that said, I have a couple of things that are general ways to just reduce stress. And there's a bunch of tools under sort of each category that we can get into. Maybe that'll be another podcast. But I just want to sort of start you thinking, because every one of you is, like you're the expert of yourself. There's nobody on this planet that knows you better than you. You're the only one that has been with you your whole life in every single situation, every, year, every whatever. So do not discount your innate wisdom and sense of what is going to work for you or not work for you. However, also be aware that your ego and, your fear can be pretty friggin', they're pretty good negotiators. and so sometimes you just have to take some time to realize, okay, is this actually like my intuition or is this my ego talking and, or fear or whatever it is. Okay, so some tools to reduce stress in general terms. One would be meditation or even mindfulness in general. Meditation allows you to calm your mind, which in today's, scenario, today's world, there's a lot of anxiety, a lot of overwhelm. And so to calm your mind is a superpower. And you can totally do it. Just like I was saying earlier, where, for a few weeks I was worried that I was pregnant. And then after that, I was like, holy crap, I have more blood here than I've ever had in my life. Like, what the hell? And so it was like very mentally draining because it was like it was the opposites. It was like one day I'm thinking, geez, God help me if I am pregnant. The next day I'm sitting there like, what the hell is happening? This is more blood than I've ever had in a period ever. And so like, what the hell is happening? And so that's just one example of like many, many, many. And everyone would have tons of examples of when life kind of goes up and down and it's just like mentally draining. And so not to get stuck and or not to feel like everything is permanent, because literally nothing is permanent if you want to be super esoteric about it. But in like living your daily life, you want to at least be able to return to a sense of safety with your mind. And meditation is wonderful for that. Breathing, breath work is wonderful for that. It's just, it refreshes, it allows you to let go of the spin that you may be in when something stressful is happening and you're not sure what's happening or how it's going to work out and all of those things. You really want to have some tools in your toolbox that will allow you to find some peace. Okay, because at the end of the day, all we are looking for is some peace and some safety. And so to give yourself that and be able to give yourself that when you need it is amazing. So that's one example of a way to reduce your stress. The second example is through exercise and like general body movement. And I have to say, like, what am I? I'm 45. That's true. Yeah, I'm 45. I have to check. Anyways, every so often I'm thinking I'm younger. But anyway, that's totally beside the point. But yeah, exercise is really, really more important than ever the older you get. Like, so I'm to the age now where I've noticed, like, sometimes when I get up in the morning, I'm like actually kind of creaky and like stiff, and I've never used to be like that ever. And so at first it was like, what the hell, did I hurt myself yesterday? What's happening here? But it happens so regularly now that it's not actually anything at all other than just you need to do some yoga, Lise, or exercise in general, just to keep yourself limber. And so that's another check I do where it's like, how long have I been sitting at my freaking desk for? Okay, yeah, let's go for a walk. Okay, yeah, let's go like do little weights. Let's do yoga. Yoga is a brilliant practice in a lot of other ways other than just body movement, but just for the simple stretching of it and like basic strength, it's all you like, get into it. I have an old boss who, what is he? He's must be near 70 now. And I've been noticing because of my aging process, I've been noticing like the folks that are my parents' age, and which ones look like they're way older than their age and which ones look like they're aging gracefully. They're limber, they can walk without looking like, they're really struggling. They can still move, they can bend over, they can do different things where it's just like, regular life stuff. And so he was saying to me, he had some friend who, I don't know, I think they were, I know what it was. They were going to do they were going on vacation. They were going to do some hiking in like some mountain range somewhere. And I was like, oh, that's really good. Like, nice work, and he was saying that he credits entirely his ability to do that at this point with his yoga practice, which I remember when he started it, it was probably about 15 years ago. And it seemed kind of funny. I thought maybe, his wife had maybe gotten a little too much influence on what he liked or didn't like kind of thing. And it was like, okay, whatever. But both him and my other old boss started doing yoga in their 40s and have never once regretted it. And literally now that they're in their late 60s, it's like their number one practice. They like we were talking earlier, where it's like things that you have to do just like to make your life work. Yoga for them is like non-negotiable. So I'm just putting it out there. That's one example. Even yesterday, we were, I was out with my sister and all the kids, and we went on this trail walk, and it's a beautiful walk along a river, and there's sort of like a steep drop off, and there's a little path, like it's a little trail in the woods. It's not really meant, like you kind of have to be a little bit more limber because there's lots of things on the path that you have to kind of walk around or through, and then there's a drop off, so you don't want to like not be paying attention and then end up rolling down the hill. But so the kids were up ahead of us. My sister and I were talking, and we come up to where the kids were because they were no longer on the path. They were actually like, they had found sort of a bigger area down below at the bottom, right at the river level. And so they were climbing down the cliff, or the steep hill. I won't call it a cliff, but a steep hill. And they were trying to find a path down it so they could get right to the water where there was a bunch of rocks you could kind of climb on, and be right on the water. So at first I was like, oh God, that seems kind of like not for me maybe. But the kids were there was a couple of them doing different, like kind of trying different directions and seeing which one was easier. And so I was like, oh, whatever, like, let's just give this a try. So, we're all going down there different ways, like super slow, because it was sort of like a dirt, it was like a dirt steep hill, but it had like some spots it was in the woods, so there was trees, but there was dirt in between the trees, and there was some vines, and there was some little underbrush, kind of bushy things, like little ferns. And so, yeah, we were like, each of us was trying to get our way down. The kids, like some of the kids ended up like surfing on the dirt because the dirt started to roll on them. And then they were like trying to stay, stable, but still go with it because obviously they were going to get down there faster. Other ones took super slow routes and just like, made sure they had something to grab each step so they could kind of make their way down. And yeah, it felt really good for me to just figure out my way down and then walk around in the river. I love like the water. And then come back and figure like, okay, here I am, just going to try this thing and hopefully it works out. If I kind of slide down the hill again, I'll just try another spot. Who cares? But to have that mindset where it's like, yeah, of course I can do this. And it actually will keep me more, flexible, more agile. Like you have to kind of want to use your body to keep it, I think, is my motto currently. Or it's always been my motto, but it just seems like more and more it's like, yep, that's totally true. And so when I did get up and everyone was up, it was kind of like, oh yeah, I'm glad I did that. Like I'm thinking to myself, I didn't actually say that to anybody else, but I'm thinking to myself, like, yeah, I'm glad I did that, because standing up there just watching them do that would have sort of been like, yeah, I'm too old for this. I can't do that. It's like, no, I'm going to give it a go. And the worst thing that could happen is, yeah, I get my pants dirty and, everyone's laughing because they're like, hey, she fell down the freaking hill. And that's okay. It's good to see people try, right? So move your body. However, whatever way works for you, just find some ways of moving your body. When I have what I feel like is no time and, I just really have to show up for different things, the least that I do is like dance in my room while I'm getting ready or in the kitchen while I'm like making breakfast. I'll just dance to some songs just to get like my body moving. And I don't dance in any kind of way that's like I would consider like athletically like, really trying or like really adventurous. But it's just like a way to get yourself, feel yourself being fluid, feel all your muscles moving, all your body parts moving. And then obviously music is like, it's a joyful thing, right? So it's very therapeutic. So whether you want to listen to joyful tunes or whatever music, whatever matches your mood, to just kind of flow through that a little bit more is perfectly fine. So, number 2, exercise, move your body however you need to. And 3 is just simply rest. The other day, I just, it was the weekend and I felt real tired in the middle of the afternoon, and I literally never nap, like really hardly ever unless I'm sick. And I just felt like, you know what? I'm going to have a nap. And so I did. And I never, before any of this, I never would have given myself that time. Like it just felt too lazy. It felt too, self-indulgent. It was like, well, don't you have a million things to do? And it's kind of like, you know what? I'm like really tired. Like I just felt kind of drained after all these weeks of like my menstruational experiences. So it was like, no, I need to like rest. I need to make sure my body gets the energy back. I need to like endorse my healing and rejuvenation. And so I'm going to just rest. And so I did for like an hour. And then I got up and had a great rest of the day. And I don't know if I would have had such a good rest of the day if, my nerves were kind of frayed and I was just maybe not as friendly to people, or just like half-assing a whole bunch of stuff and feeling like, why should I do all this, or whatever it was. And so allow yourself to rest. And at this point, I can't say that my sleeping at night is as good as it's ever been, because back to perimenopause, but I think I'm getting better. Well, I know I'm getting better. There's still obviously room for improvement, but like at resting, because the literal sleep is not as awesome as it ever was. Like I do seem to get up in the middle of the night most nights, which is super, like it is mostly new to me, but it's also super annoying. But it's been like that for like a year or so now. And I don't know when that goes away, but hopefully at some point it will. But so in the middle of the day, I've just been taking time to like, sit and just be in the backyard. If there's like a nice sunny blue sky day, it's like just admire the sky. If there's a park at lunch or something where it's like you can just go and take a couple deep breaths and be like, okay, I'm resting. It doesn't have to be sleep. I think I take this too from when I was pregnant with the kids, where it's like the resting is just like slowing down. It doesn't mean you have to literally be sleeping or it doesn't count. It's like the slowing down, the allowing your body to do something else other than, running all over the place and getting everything done. It's to just kind of quiet the mind a bit, quiet the body down, take some deeper breaths, and just recenter. All right. So for you, whatever that looks like, get curious about it. Like, what would that look like for you? What do you do maybe already that's resting? And what could you add in if you need to add more in? Maybe for sure, every season of life has, different demands, different requirements, a different flavor. And so, whatever season of life you're in now, what are the demands? How can you show up best for this season, whatever season you're in? And considering the 3 questions to just check your stress level. Is what you're doing right now currently working for you in a long-term way, or should you be looking for ways to reduce your stress? And these 3 ways to reduce your stress that I just gave you are like personal ways. There should be a 4th way. I should have probably thought of that earlier. But the 4th way is to actually structure your life in a way that supports your well-being. And so for me, like owning some companies, it's like the engineering firm I work with. I'm not the sole owner, but I own it with 2 other guys. It's like, how can my work at that office work for me? I'm the owner. It's like, if anybody has the power to like create whatever they want, it's like the owner. And so there's like no freaking excuse for me to be like, oh my God, this is like crazy. There's no time for vacation. There's no time for nothing. And so it's like, okay, so just, I'm asking myself, what do I need? And it's like, I have the power to literally implement it. And so maybe you're not the owner of wherever you work, but you can begin to notice and begin to feel into how could your life work better for you, and what structures do you need to implement? So like, maybe you need an assistant and you need somebody to delegate work to at work. Maybe in your personal life, you need to have more time for your hobbies. Who knows? Like, there's so many facets to everyone's life. But that's why the questions are so powerful, because it personalizes it for you. It sort of opens the door in your psyche to be like, I wonder how that could work for me, or how could I create that so that my life will feel better on a long-term basis. Anyway, I think I'll close with that. This has been a bit of a longer one. But I just really all of a sudden sort of had like a download of inspiration where I felt like this needed to come out, because it just seemed like such a potent time for me with all of these things going on as well. And to, I guess, always operate from the kind of like the position that life is always working, like everything you're dealing with, even if it's not the best thing that you'd ever want to have happen to you or anything, it's always working for your higher evolution. And so I think of myself literally, and I think of everyone as like diamonds. And so it's like we're each a little diamond walking around, and life wants to it pressures us at times, because it's like forcing us to change, because it's like, okay, maybe you could have changed way back then when you were having all that fun and but that didn't seem to work. You didn't do anything different when your life was pretty smooth and nothing was happening. So it's like, here's a little pressure cooker to just get some of the shit that you need to let go of, to like really make you let go of it, because it's like, now is the time. And so I do always take life like that, where it's like, there is points where I'm like, seriously, why me? But in the end, I can get to a point where it's like, okay, what do I need to learn here? What is the wisdom in this shitty freaking situation? What is it that I can take and like move forward with grace and wisdom into whatever my future has in store for me. And so to take it like that, and it really also is a perspective that allows you to look at the growth aspect of your life and not feel like, I guess it keeps you evolving instead of feeling like, oh, this happened. Okay, I'm never going to do that again. That must have been that. That's not happening anymore. Or, something else happens where it's like, okay, I can never do that again because that didn't quite work out how it should have. And it's like, well, geez, if everyone did that, like, you want to be actively living your life and not kind of shrinking back and putting yourself into these smaller and smaller boxes until you die. Because that's no fun. That's no fun. So have some fun in life. And so it's not all serious. I think there was a book written that's literally like the game of life and how to play it. I think her name was Florence or Frances. I can't remember. Frances Chauvel. I don't know. Anyways, it is called The Game of Life and How to Play It. So if you want to have a book recommendation, but literally, like, come on, like, have some fun, take some risks, calculated risks, of course, not just crazy risks. But like, you got to kind of engage with life. And so this whole episode is just really getting into like, if your feet are in the fire, what are your, do you maintain your stress level? Are you kind of like part of the problem because you're not really seeing it as like something you could change? And if that's true, that's okay. Good time to know. And then now that you know, it's like, okay, maybe what can I do here to kind of move myself in a better direction, to reduce my stress, to allow myself to live in that feeling of more fun. And yeah, I think I'll leave it at that. My daughter looks like she's calling to get a ride home from work. So I will leave you there, and I hope you enjoyed the episode. And if you have, share with a friend. The podcast is growing and it's awesome. And I love how it just seems to, like, through the interwebs, people seem to be just finding me, which is amazing. So I wish you a great day, and I will see you next time. Take care.